Welcome all of you class. I am Durgesh Kumar Pandey. In class I am going to introduce a topic executive in class 11th. Class the government have a three organ: executive, legislature and judiciary. These three organ of the government work as a different body, and Montesquieu was giving a theory that the power of ruler or government was divided into three organs: executive, legislature and judiciary. And by this, the freedom of peoples would be protected. So, class, in the parliamentary form of government, executive is responsible for their work upon the legislature, and executive and legislature both are work together, and judiciary is independent. Similarly, class, the next thing, legislature make the law and judiciary check the work is going according to constitution or not. So class, in this period we are going to discuss about the executive. Class, what is executive? You have idea, who is taking decision in your principal, in your school, the principal. Similarly, in any country, the decisions are taken by the executive, and they execute the law and regulation which was made by the legislature. Okay, the law and regulation which was made by the legislature, it was executed by executive. This is the third branch this is the one of the branch of the government. And president, vice president, prime minister, council of ministers, they are the political executive. Means they are elected by the people for the term of 5 years. Okay, and a class, there is another part of executive which is a permanent executive or civil servant. They take the responsibility of administration. Okay class, so executives are two types. This is a political executives, means the leaders which are elected by the people. And the second one is a permanent executive, and this is known as a civil, like a IAS officer, PCS officer, DM, SDM. These civil servants are the permanent executive. They perform their duty till the age of retirement. Okay class, so executive means all the political and permanent, means permanent executive take the responsibility of administration in the city. So what was the function of executive? executive can execute the policy or law which are made by the parliament. Okay, so that is we call executive. This is the organ of the government which implement the rules and regulations made by the parliament. Plus, you know, in all over the world, executives type, how many types of executives? Look class, executives are two types. Parliament form of government. Parliamentary, and second is presidential. There are two types of executive. Parliamentary form of executive, they work on the principle of collective responsibility, and the presidential form of executive where the individual one leader is taking the work and taking the responsibility individually. Okay, you know, parliamentary form of government was in UK and presidential form in USA. Plus, you know what is parliamentary form of government? In the parliamentary form of government, there are two types of executive. The permanent and the real and temporary. You can say nominal and real. Like in the India, the executives in the parliamentary form of government, the president is the nominal head and council of state headed by prime minister is the real head. And in the parliamentary form of government, you know, system of the parliamentary form of government was based on the collective responsibility. This system of presidential form of government is based on the individual responsibility. Like President of USA was the executive responsible for everything. And there is a separation of executive from the legislature. Both are separate, they are not interdependent in the presidential form. In the presidential form, executive and legislature both are work separately, they are not interdependent. But in the parliamentary form of government, both are interdependent. Executive and legislature both are interdependent. And you know, class, some countries follow the class. The parliamentary form of government have another example like Canada, Japan, Italy. They have a parliamentary form of government. They have a nominal head and also they have a real head. Means, and they have a second type of parliamentary form of government which is known as semi-presidential. Plus, the example of semi-presidential government is Russia, France. Class, in semi-presidential government, you know, there is a chief executive, means president, and president appoint the prime minister, and they have a both feature, parliamentary and presidential, दोनों को feature पाए जाते हैं. Means in semi-presidential form of government, the head of the government is the president, and prime ministers also have a power. They both work. And class, this semi-presidency system was a good system, which removed the drawback of parliamentary form of government. In the parliamentary form of government, there was uncertainty of the executive, and this semi-presidential government was a system which was removed this instability, because president and prime minister both are the part of the class. So there are three types of executive: parliamentary form of executive, presidential form of executive, and semi-presidential form of executive. Class, United Kingdom, India, Canada, Japan, Italy and Germany, they are the example of presidential form of parliamentary form of government. UK, India, Canada, Japan, Italy and Germany, they are the parliamentary form of government. In the parliamentary form of government, the executive have a two part. First part is nominal executive, and second is the real executive. Like UK, there is a nominal executive, Queen Elizabeth, and the real power is in the hand of Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister. Class. So UK have a two types of the executive, nominal and real. Similarly, in India, there are two types of executive. President is the nominal executive, but real power was in the hand of Council of State headed by the Prime Minister. So similarly, in the Canada, Elizabeth II was the nominal head, and the real power was in the hand of Council of State headed by the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. And similarly, in these countries also, the parliamentary form of government. So there are many features in the parliamentary form of government. First feature is there are two type of executive, nominal and real. Second feature is that in a parliamentary form of government, executive is also the part of parliament, and the member of executive are chosen from the parliament, and executive is responsible for their work against the parliament. If in the parliament it was proved no confidence motion, the whole executive will give resignation. Okay. So class, in the parliamentary form of government, the tenure of executive is uncertain, because in the case of no confidence in the parliament, the executive will be given the resignation. So their tenure is uncertain. Okay class. Now come on the second type of executive, semi-presidential and presidential. Class, in the presidential form of government, executive, legislature and judiciary both are work separately. The member of executive is not the member of legislature. Executive is not responsible for their work against the legislature. Executive is not responsible for their work against the legislature. Tenure of executive is fixed for 4 years like in USA. And in a presidential form of government, executive and legislature both are work separately. They are not interdependent. But in the parliamentary form of government, executive and legislature both are interdependent. The tenure of executive is fixed here, but tenure of executive is not fixed in the parliamentary form of government. Class. So America was a good example of they was adopting the idea of Montesquieu, the division of power, like power is divided into three organs of the government: executive, legislature, and judiciary. So this idea was followed even truly in the USA. These organs all work separately. No one can interfere the work of another. They were cooperate by the method of check and balance. Okay, but basically they were not interfere in the field of another work. So this is the presidential form of government. In class, the third one, semi-presidential, is the best model, which are in the Russia, France, and Sri Lanka. In this, the president is the head of the state and the prime minister is the head of the government. Both are elected person. Okay, president and prime minister both are come with the election. So, in the semi-presidential government, the president is an important post, and if both president was appointed the prime minister, if both president and prime minister both are in the same party, it will work properly. But suppose both are another party, it will create a difficulty here. But it create a stability in a country. Like example is of France. France was changed their constitution and they adopted the semi-presidential form of government, which provide them stability. De Gaulle was the leader who was write a new constitution for France and establish a semi-presidential type of government in France and make the president more powerful comparison to other to make the stability in the France. Plus, so there are three types of the government: parliamentary, semi-presidential, and these are the three types of executive. Class, now welcome class. Class, today I introduce the government and their organ. You know the class. Government have a three organs: executive, legislature, and class third organ is judiciary. Okay, class, these are the three organs of the government. You know, previously, during the 16th, 17th century, the Montesquieu was giving this principle that the power of the government or ruler was distributing among three organs of the government: executive, legislature, and judiciary. And if the ruler or government give their power in three organs, and these three organs work separately, take the different responsibility, this was possible that the government will accountable to the people, and the freedom of peoples were not suppressed by the ruler, because if ruler have no power, their power was given to executive, legislature and judiciary. It means now the ruler will not able to exploit their peoples, because the work of the ruler was divided into three organs, and like executive, legislature and judiciary. Legislature, like in national level, it is known as parliament. Their function is making law and policy for a country, and the work of executive is to implement such a policy or law in the country. It means the executive is execute this law and policy which was made by the legislature. And the third organ, class third organ, is the judiciary, which was ensuring that the work is going according to constitution or not. If executive is find that the work is going against the constitution, they have a right to suspend or reject any law which was made by the parliament. Okay, so these three organs are the taking the different responsibility. The work of the government become effective, welfare for the people ensure. Class, these three organs are working. Suppose if you are going USA was adopted a presidential form of government. So in USA was adopted this model of Montesquieu, because the maker of the Constitution of USA was influenced by the ideology of Montesquieu, which was given this concept during the 17th-18th century. And the maker of the Indian Constitution, maker of the USA constitutions were influenced by the Montesquieu, and they were adopted this model. Okay, and this model was adopted accurately by the government of USA. And executive, the work of legislature and judiciary, both are, everyone is worked separately. Okay, class, the work of legislature to make a law, and executive execute anything, and judiciary take the decision. Means no one can work in the interfere of another one, and every organ of the world or organ of the government work independently. And executive is not the part of legislature. The tenure of executive is uncertain, and both are work separately. But if you are going in the class the parliamentary form of government like India and UK, you are finding in the parliamentary form of government both executive and legislature both are interdependent. Okay, the member of executive is also the member of legislature. Okay, and there are two types of executive. One is the nominal and the other is real. There are two types of the executive class. Like in our India, in the parliamentary form of government, president is the nominal head and prime minister the real head. So you understand what is the difference between the parliamentary and presidential class. Our Indian government adopted the parliamentary form of government by following United Kingdom, because they were our colonial master. So we learn most of the things from the UK, and we are adopted the parliamentary form of government by the influence of UK. And we are adopted this model after some change in India also. Class the main work of judiciary is to make law and execute this thing. Okay? Execute the rules and principle which was made by legislature. Class, now India was adopted the parliamentary form of government after the independence because we learn many things from our colonial master. So during the government of India Act 1919 and 1935, our Indian government was adopted the parliamentary form of government was introduced in our country during the colonial period from 1919 and 1935.